First, let me apologize that my workbench is a mess. Second, this is a new video. I have received the Turnigy 250mm micro racing quad. This is kind of a snapshot picture of it that came from the box, and I wanted to go through some of the mods that I've made to it to make it a little bit easier to put together. So this is the quad again. I apologize, my workbench is a mess. Couple things that I want to go through. First and foremost, the power distribution block that this comes with, which you can see here in the center, is essentially some modified bullet style connectors. And what you can see is that while the hot leads, the reds here, are coming into one side, there are 4 motors, or 4 speed controls, so there are 2 on this side. But the nature of these connectors means that there are 2 more coming on the other side right here. So if you look at these, there are 4 bullet connectors, and if you offset them by 1, let me see if I can flatten this out enough, get a light in here. So you can see there's 1 and then a second one, and there's a hole in the middle. So if you can keep them off by 1, it makes it very easy to slide them into these connectors. And then I'm just going to tape these down to the bottom to get them out of the way. In addition to that, I've built this little wire by essentially, I took apart a shortened servo lead, stripped it down to 3 wires. So I had a red that you see there, and I have the black and the white. Got rid of the black and the white because I don't need those. This is going to be my power lead to tell the KK2 board how much power is left in it. And what I've done here on the end, I'm sure you can't see it, is I've pried out the tabs a little bit so that it slides easily into one of those bullet connector slots. And then the other end I've left intact and just put a bit of heat shrink on, and I will slide that over top of the pin that I have soldered onto the KK2 board. My fingers are huge. Right here. So that way I can easily read voltage from the whole scenario just by plugging that in, and there's no soldering or anything like that, other than to put the pin on the board, which is pretty straightforward. So let's talk about how this thing goes together. First and foremost, the motor mounts themselves. It comes with the screws that you need to put them in place, which is brilliant, and the little washers. All of that is in the kit. These legs, the standoffs, are only designed to go in the center holes, so don't try and run your wires down through them. This only goes one way, and then you can secure them with some CA or other glue. The strap for the battery is here on the bottom, a little piece of Velcro. And when you're putting it together, make sure you put that Velcro in first. Otherwise, you're going to have a really hard time when you go to put your KK down there and you realize that you're going to have a piece of Velcro dragging over all your wires and everything else. So it goes underneath, and they have, I don't know if you can see it in here, they have these lovely little offsets here, so there is enough room. These standoffs kind of keep it off the board, off the bottom of the board, keep the KK2 off the bottom of the chassis. So that works great, keeps it off that bit of Velcro there. So it comes with all of these little 10 amp speed controllers. What I did to mount these up is I took, let's see, this is probably the easiest one to see, right here. I took the power and the ground wire and ran those through the first 2 holes so that they go underneath. Let's see if I can, yeah. So you can see they run down underneath the board very easily. And then the motor I brought up along one side, and it drops down along the right hand side in this hole. Let's see if I can lift that up a little bit. Apologize. There we go. You can see the speed controller drops down on the left side, the wires for the motor drops down on the right side, and then underneath come out looking something like this, and they're coming out on 2 opposite sides, which makes them very easy to lay flat and then I'm just going to run a zip tie around that and pretty that all up. So last but not least, so imagine that we've got our KK2 board there. I just use a simple Turnigy 9X, the old school one, for my radio right now. I don't have a fancy 9XR. So I've got these little 6-channel receivers that work really, really well. And what I did to cut down on wires is I took one of the receiver wires here, the little servo extension wires, and I turned it 90 degrees so that it is essentially getting channels 2, 3, and 4. And then channel 1 is a full-blown lead. So this gives you power, ground, everything that this needs to operate with one wire. The second wire gives you the signals for channels 2, 3, and 4. And then I just broke off the actual connectors on them so that they easily plug into the KK2 board. So these simply plug in. My receiver is going to sit here on the back, and then I'm going to plug channel 1 here in the KK2, and then this guy, because these three are, see if I can move this enough so you can see it. These three have been split off into their own separate connectors. They will go on there providing signals for channels 2, 3, and 4, and I don't have to have the extra weight of the full set of wires for those. So it should lighten things up a bit. I have not done the same thing with all of the ESCs, which I know some folks do. Just, this is the first time I'm building one of these out. If I do a second one and I really want to go for weight savings, that may happen, but for right now, this is as far as we take it. So I just wanted to share some tips and tricks. Hopes this is helpful to some of you who are building these guys. One last thing, when you're putting the motors in, the wiring bundle that comes out of the motor, which you can see right here, it will be bent a little bit most likely when you get it out of your box, bent down. Just gently push on that a little bit and it'll flatten out so that these can sit nice and flat on top of the motor mounts. Anyway, enjoy.